Hello YouTube. I want to talk about one of my favorite subjects in the scientific research and in the realm of what you can call paranormal, and it has to do with the discoveries of ancient human footprints during the time when only dinosaurs were supposed to have existed on our planet. Until 1980s, footprints of Cretaceous reptiles that lived about 100 million years ago were known in the USSR, land of my birth, only in the areas of the Ravat Gorge, on the Babatag Ridge in Tajikistan, and on Sataplia Mountain to the northwest of Kutaisi in Georgia. But footprints of Jurassic dinosaurs that lived on Earth 150 million years ago were found in Uzbekistan. But the largest number of the upper Jurassic tracks, both in the former USSR and throughout the world, the largest numbers are in Turkmenistan. They were found on the western slope of Kukintaktau, near the village of Hojapil Ata. If you translate this name from Turkmen, it means footprints of elephants of the Holy Grandfather. According to legends, huge footprints on the plateau more than 2,000 years ago were left by elephants of the army of Alexander the Great. In 1983, an expedition from the Institute of Geology of the Turkmen Soviet Socialist Republic Academy of Sciences found over 1,500 tracks left by dinosaurs in the mountains in the southeast of the country. Impressions resembling in shape a human footprint were discovered next to the tracks of the prehistoric animals. So what they said was that we've discovered imprints resembling human footprints, but to date have failed to determine with any scientific veracity whom they belong to after all. Of course, if we could prove that they do belong to a humanoid, it would create a revolution in the science of mankind. Humanity would grow older, much more, and its history would be at least 150 million years long. I believe the scientist said that it would grow older 30-fold. And this comes from an article that was published in Moscow News in the year of 1983. And the author was Rubtsov, who is a well-known personality in the Soviet, let's say, paranormal research, although it had to do more with UFOs and so forth. And the article was titled Tracking Dinosaurs. So it was Professor Kurban Amanyazov in an article that appeared in a Russian science magazine Vakruk Sveta that he wrote about the plateau, and he imagined what it must have been like to see dinosaurs walking through a forest of ginkgo trees. Suddenly the green wall opens and a big dinosaur comes out, and the wide open place of the lagoon in that area. He fantasized what it would be like to see a 50-foot high dinosaur stretching its neck out of the forest. Dr. Amanyazov is simply astonished that there are human or human-like footprints with the dinosaurs in a layer of Jurassic rock that he estimates to be 200 million years old. He discusses one of the footprints and says, if we speak about this human footprint, it was made by a human or human-like animal. Incredibly, this footprint is on the same plateau where there are dinosaur tracks. We can say that the age of the footprint is not 5 or 10, but at least 150 million years old. It is 26 centimeters long, and that's the Russian size equivalent to 43 or 9.5 American. And we consider that whoever left the footprint was taller than we are. So far, we cannot absolutely say that the footprint belongs to human being. That's according again to Kurban Amanyazov, who was the head of the expedition that discovered it. And it really resembles human footprint. If you can find more convincing evidence that a person walked here or humanoid creature, this would lead to a revolution in the science of the history of human development. We're used to assume that it does not exceed 2 or 3 million years. If some human being left its mark near dinosaur trails, it means that the age of mankind is dozens of times more than previously thought. However, while we can't say this, there's too little data. Although in the descriptions of scientists who discovered the traces of dinosaurs in North America, they also mention a footprint resembling human. Amanyazov, he had in mind the footprints that were found next to footprints of a dinosaur in the bed of the Biloxi River in Texas. It seems that a man was chasing a lizard, the scientist wrote. One of the tracks even overlapped the edge of the track of dinosaur. So far, it has been a question of the footprints of bare human feet. So, 20 plus years later, there was a Russian free press correspondent who had the opportunity to personally count the footprints or tracks of the dinosaurs on that plateau and on the neighboring ones. And he found out that there were significantly more than 3,000 of them. The Kugin-Taktau region is a remote province of Turkmenistan and is a very sparsely populated place. A few kilometers from the village of Hojapil, local shepherds discovered a sloping rocky plateau with perfectly preserved traces 200 years ago. Actually, all the local legends and myths, one way or another, tell about the holy elephants who supposedly arranged their wild dances on this plateau at night. The smallest footprint is about 18 to 20 centimeters long, and the largest reaches 71 centimeters. According to scientists, this is Megalosaurus footprints of one of the largest representatives of the Jurassic period. The rocky plateau is literally trampled by elephants. The most surprising thing is that chains of dinosaur tracks are interspersed in some places with footprints of a human person. Now, again, Turkmen professor, geologist Kurban Amanyazov later amazed the Russian correspondent, confirming to him, yes, footprints very similar to human feet can be seen everywhere, interspersed with footprints of dinosaurs. Both of them are imprinted in the Jurassic layer of the rock, which according to him is about 200 million years old. Undoubtedly, the scientist told the Russian correspondent, the footprint was left by a humanoid animal. And we can definitely say that these tracks are not 5 years old and not 10, but are as old as the footprints of the dinosaurs. The professor recalled that he published a report about the expedition in a popular Moscow newspaper. The resonance was great, since this fact directly contradicted Darwin's theory of evolution. But who was it then who left its footprints in the Turkmen mountains? Aliens? Creatures from parallel world? Be that as it may, but Professor Amanyazov believed that it was possible to prove that the footprints were humanoid, or made by a human. But definitely this would turn the science of mankind over and over. And humanity would age by at least 150 million years. Amazing. This is amazing stuff. Now, there was an American connection to it. Dr. Dennis Swift from the USA Dinosaur Institute became interested in this fact. He obtained an official invitation from the government and the Academy of Sciences of Turkmenistan, flew to Ashgabat to study prehistoric prints. Swift was accompanied by Halmurat Hudaykuliyev, a professor of the Institute of Geology of the Academy of Sciences of Turkmenistan. So they reached a plateau and with their own eyes made sure that there were human tracks. Swift's expedition discovered some more surprising facts. For example, on the Dinosaur Plateau, the footprint of the mountain goats that lived in that area in the Jurassic period were also clearly visible. Experts who familiarized themselves with these footprints recognized that they were identical to the hoofs of modern goats, which still live on Kugintang. So the dinosaurs became extinct, but not the goats. Here are some details. It was in August of 2000 that Dr. Dennis Swift of the Dinosaur Institute was officially invited by the Turkmenistan government and the Academy of Sciences of Turkmenistan to investigate the dinosaur sites on the Kugintang. So he received permission to conduct a number of tests and also make latex molds of the dinosaur and human footprints. Professor Kudaykuliyev of the Institute of Geology and Turkmenistan Academy of Sciences came along with Dr. Swift. The expedition also included 3 more scientists. They journeyed by a Russian jeep to the area in the mountains beyond the Dinosaur Plateau at the elevation of 8,000 feet, up a very treacherous incline and down into a ravine that has several gray rock Jurassic layers. They found a human footprint and a dinosaur track site. In mid-1970s, a slab of stone approximately 30 feet long and 15 feet wide became exposed in that area. On this slab, there are 6 human footprints in a left-right sequence. 4 of the human prints are clearly visible and are size 43 Russian, or like I said, 9.5 American. The other 2 footprints are half prints. The trail is in a sequence with the footprints averaging 18 inches apart. Now, the trail, like I said, was first examined in the 1980s. And later, Professor Kudaykuliyev conducted research in the area. The site geologically has been identified as Jurassic 150 to 200 million years old. The trail has been called the Swift Trail now in honor of Dr. Swift, being the first person from the outside world, outside of the USSR, to investigate the site. There are about 50 dinosaur prints nearby. Approximately 100 meters below this site is another long, narrow Jurassic layer where a distinct single human footprint has been identified. This Jurassic layer seems to go for many miles to the west and lies at varying degrees below the surface of the Kugintang mountains. Within a half mile of this human dinosaur site is another gray layer of Jurassic rock with numerous dinosaur prints. This joint scientific team spent about 3 days at the Dinosaur Plateau, which is a flat surface of remarkably preserved fossilized dinosaur prints. And like I said, the plateau is at the elevation of 8,000 feet and it's tilted about 40 degrees angle. This huge gray plateau is very prominent to see and is surrounded by drab-looking brown hills. To reach it, you need a jeep and then a very difficult, vigorous climb to the plateau. Like I mentioned, there are 2 distinct human footprints in the thousands of dinosaur footprints in this area, and these prints have been discovered by and identified as human or humanoid by Kurban Amanizyanov, Russian scientists and members of the Turkmenistan Academy of Science. Turkmen scientists revealed that there were fossilized goat tracks on the dinosaur plateau. Among the dinosaur tracks, the director of the National Reserve also spoke to Dr. Swift about seeing goat tracks on the dinosaur plateau with the dinosaur tracks. So the Swift expedition team returned to the dinosaur plateau and found several fossilized hoof prints of goats. Now, these goat tracks are surrounded by three-toed dinosaur tracks of an unknown theropod species. These goat tracks have been identified as matching the spiral horned goat that still lives in the Kugitang Tau mountain range. The authorities at the Kugitang Tau National History Museum told Dr. Swift that about 200 spiral horned goats live right now in that area in the mountains. Not right now, but at the time. Those experts who are familiar with the spiral horned goat tracks said that they are identical to the modern spiral horned goat tracks. The Institute of Geology and Academy of Science, Turkmenistan, cooperated with Dr. Dennis Swift to do the joint effort in the scientific study of this important sites. All papers, photos, and research of the Institute of Geology have been made available to the American scientist. He was also invited by the Kugitang Tau village elder to return in April of 2001 with the promise that the elder would escort him to another dinosaur plateau by horseback. This plateau has never been seen by anyone outside of the few people in the village. No scientist has ever been there. So this way the village chose to honor him. Now, the implications of these discoveries are staggering, that human and dinosaur footprints are together at two sites. I mean, this is smashing the evolution theory. The fact that Russian and Turkmenistan scientists have identified the human footprints is evidence that is hard to dismiss. This is another blow to the evolutionary theory. And of course, the goat tracks with human and dinosaur tracks only build up the case. All these tracks are in the same Jurassic layer, supposedly 200 million years old. This evidence basically makes many paleontologists, let's just say, more than amazed. So I would like to find out, and I'm looking if there have been any subsequent expeditions in the last 20 years or so, and I will bring whatever evidence I have, but I wanted you to know about this particular case, I should say. I have much more to tell you about the dinosaur expeditions in the Soviet Union, and I urge you to see my video about Professor Ivan Yefremov. I'll put a link in the description, because there are other mysteries which involve Russian or Soviet expeditions in Mongolia. But let's look at China now, at the eastern Shandong province. Zhucheng's early Cretaceous relics, Liaoning feathered dinosaurs, and the Xinyang's wealth of Jurassic material are among the Chinese treasure troves reshaping our understanding of ancient life on Earth. Now, China claims to have found the world's biggest deposit of dinosaur bones in the old city of Zhucheng in Shandong province. That's on the country's eastern coast. Workers digging along a 300-meter slope on the outskirts of the city unearthed a densely packed layer of fossils that could be more than 100 million years old. The PRC state agency Xinhua said that 7,600 samples have been discovered, mostly dating from the late Cretaceous period, the era when dinosaurs are believed to have become extinct. Footprints discovered near the city of Zhucheng belong to several species of dinosaurs. The age of the Chinese find is about 100 million years, and the size of the paws, which are scattered over an area of about 2.6 thousand square meters, reach 80 centimeters. The total number of tracks is about 3,000. In total, the excavation of the tracks took about 3 months, according to Xinhua news agency. Now, the most curious thing, according to the Russian reporter or correspondent who was in Turkmenistan, is that all the tracks are directed in one direction. On the basis of this, Chinese paleontologists conclude they were left by a group of ancient dinosaurs who escaped from some kind of danger by flight, possibly running away from a predator. I also read that some scientists believe a volcanic eruption may have killed the dinosaurs, and a subsequent flood carried the fossils to Zhucheng, which may have been a wetland covered in grass. We just don't know. All this is just hypothesis. Now, the Chinese call a record number of tracks found near Zhucheng. However, it is not. Again, there is a corner on Earth where dinosaurs lived more thoroughly, and this was on the foothills of the Kugantang Tao in the southeast Turkmenistan. Again, on the so-called Hojapil Plateau, or the Holy Elephants. So there were more bones found in Turkmenistan, and maybe with further research, more will be found. We just don't know where it will take place. But what's interesting, who could scare the Chinese lizards so much that they fled headlong? Was it the ancestor of modern human being? Well, who knows? But I want to talk now about Yakutia, and we will skip millions of years, but it's still a very interesting story and something that should be explored more and will be. And I urge you to look at my Yakutia videos. I have a lot of them in my YouTube channel. So for those who do not know, Republic of Sakha or Yakutia is one of the most amazing and unique sites on Earth. Yakutia is an enormous country. It covers 3 million square kilometers. The territory of Yakutia is larger than the territories of Sweden, France, Germany, Italy, Austria, and Great Britain put together. It is a harsh place to live, but a beautiful one, and the humans have inhabited this land for thousands of years, or maybe more. Soviet biologist, Soviet scientist Flerov discovered a bison skull in Yakutia, and it had a perfect round hole in the forehead. So a bison skull in the museum in Moscow. The bison has a hole in its skull that must have been made by a bullet, according to Professor Konstantin Flerov, who at one time was the curator of the museum. Flerov, Konstantin Konstantinovich Flerov, who passed away in 1980, was a Soviet paleontologist, doctor of biological sciences, and a professor. He was head of the Paleontological Museum in honor of Orlov, who was a member of the Mongolian Paleontological Expedition of the USSR Academy of Sciences. Okay, and I told you about the expeditions to Mongolia and my video about Ivan Yefremov and the strange discoveries made in Mongolia at the time. Anyway, about Flerov. He was a painter, artist, reconstructor, and animalist, and he recreated the appearances of many fossil animals. He was widely quoted in illustrations of paleontological themes in the second half of the 20th century. The works of Flerov are in the Zoological Museum in St. Petersburg, the Darwin Museum, the Paleontological Museum, named in the honor of Orlov, in the People's Museum of Mongolia, and the Quaternary Paleontology Institute in Germany. The artist presented a number of works to foreign colleagues and employees of the Paleontological Institute of the Academy of Sciences of the USSR. Today, many are found in private collections. Now, his book, Flerov, Fauna of the USSR Mammals, Volume 1, from 1952, is a rare find, if you can get it. It was translated into English in 1960. The Paleontological Museum of the Paleontological Institute is one of the largest specialized museums of paleontology. Its history goes back to the Kunstkammer, found by Emperor Peter the Great of Russia in 1716, to house his collection of mammalian bones and teeth from the Ice Age, together with some other material and natural history. And the history of the Orlov Museum goes back to 1716, like I said. Very interesting exhibits, if you can see them. They became foundations of the Geological Museum's collection. What's interesting is during the Second World War, the museum's collection was shipped to Central Asia, but it was restored by 1944 and reopened to the public. Numerous paleontological excavations added to the museum's collection, and in 1966 it was renamed in the honor of the Soviet explorer Yuri Orlov. Now let's look at what Flerov had found. Alexander Kazantsev, who I mentioned in several of my videos, was a very interesting personality in the field of Soviet paranormal research. And he visited Professor Flerov at that time, who was the consultant for the film Planet of the Storms, Kazantsev, based on Kazantsev's stories. So Flerov invited Kazantsev to his office in the Paleontological Museum of the USSR Academy of Sciences, and he showed the author a skull of a bison which was about 40,000 years old and was found in Yakutia and had something like a bullet wound on the forehead. Its frontal bone is damaged as if a bullet had flattened against it, which pierced it in a cumulative way, not with metal but with air pressed to the bone. However, it is important that the wound was intravita, that is made while the animal was alive. It is also 40,000 years old. This gigantic beast apparently was only seriously injured, since the bullet did not hit the brain, and the animal survived. On the edges of the wound is a visible granule, like a bone formation. The wound healed for at least another year. However, there is no longer any talk of mystification, according to Kazantsev. The case is forensic examination that could investigate the most ancient crimes of Earth with the use of firearms or some other weapon. Look, YouTube, I need to tell you also about discoveries in Central Asia of actually depictions, rock carvings of dinosaurs that were found in a very interesting and very remote part of Central Asia. I will get to that. There are some other interesting facts that I want to bring to you. Very little is known that took place in the Soviet Union, in the West, and to many Russians nowadays, and of course people who live in different republics or now independent countries, post-Soviet Union. But this should not be forgotten. I do what I can, and I'll continue. And I urge you to support me if you can. It's difficult for me too, like for everybody else right now in this very strange time that we live in. But I'll continue my research as much as I can, and I'll share it with the world, because one day, we will unite our efforts. Countries like the United States, Russia, China, and others. I don't want to miss anyone or offend anyone, but there's so much research out there. Of course, Russia is the largest country on this planet, and there is so much that has been found there that I want to describe, and I will continue it. So I wish you to be well, and we gotta get back to our normal life, and we will. Thank you for your support, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.